Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, good 24 hours, wherever you are in the world. Thank you so much for joining us today at InfluxDays. This is now our fourth time doing it virtually, and I'm still missing everybody, and I hope you guys are missing us. We can't wait to be able to see everybody in person, hopefully sometime soon. But in any event, for now, we're going to meet virtually, and we have a lot of cool topics that we're going to cover with you, as well as some product announcements. So I'm just going to go over some housekeeping items. First of all, my name is Chris. Many of you have hung out with me on the various trainings and webinars, and I'm also your host today. And so what I'd like to do is I'd like to cover just some logistics on the Convene app. If you're hanging out with us on the YouTube live stream, just hang out. You don't need to worry about these things. There will be a couple of slides that I do want you to pay attention to in just a couple of minutes. But for those of you that are hanging out with us in this Convene app, let's just take a look at the app so you can get familiar with the controls that are at your fingertips. So first of all, you're actually watching me in this nice big main stage area. And if you look to the side of the main stage, what you will actually notice, if you look to the top banner, you'll actually see a set of menu items that will help you to navigate the application. So you can go back to the home page, you can go to this main stage location, and guess what? You can also see some of our on-demand videos. They are now available for you to take a look at, and I would recommend taking a look at it at the conclusion of today. And you can also join us on our Slack channel where we're having a ton of fun. And all you have to do is just click on that link on that top banner. To the side of the main stage, you'll actually see something called Slido. So Slido is an application that's going to allow you to interact with us. You can post your questions that all the presenters will be able to read out loud and answer for you. And you can do that by either just typing in the questions if you happen to be in this Convene application, or you can just use that handy QR code that you see here, point your phone to that, and you'll be able to download the Slido application, and you'll be able to interface with us that way. The good thing is, if you are on a YouTube live stream, I think that would be a great way for you to be able to interact with us. So go ahead and take a picture of that QR code so you can start to get ready with all your questions that you probably already have on top of your mind that you want to give to all the wonderful speakers that we have. So I'm just going to hang out here for just another second or two to give you a chance to take a picture of that QR code so you can answer your questions. You can not answer your question, ask your questions so we can answer your questions. I think I've had a little too much caffeine, sorry. So once again, the Slido app, if you're in Convene, you can go ahead and just type your questions in there and our presenters will read them out loud and get them answered. Or if you prefer to use your handy smartphone, you can do that. Grab the Slido app by getting that QR code, type in your questions, send them to us, and then we'll be able to interface with you. I'm just going to stay here for just maybe 20 more seconds to give everyone a chance. I don't know about you, but sometimes those QR codes can be a little bit fussy. I was actually having some problems with one this morning. So I just give you 10 more seconds to be able to do that. Now, if you are in the Slack channel with us, we'll also be posting a link so you can get that Slido application connected to InfluxDays really easily. All right. Hopefully that's been enough time, but we can come back to this if you need a little bit more time. So if you scroll down in the Convene app, you'll actually be able to see the agenda. And the nice thing is it'll have an indicator that tells you where we are in today's agenda. If you happen to be on the live stream, then you'll need to go to InfluxDays.com and check out the agenda that way. But we'll be trying to keep on schedule during this next couple of days so that if you do need to run off to a meeting, you can come back and hang out with us when the time is permitting. Super easy, just scroll down to the bottom of your app and you can see the agenda and you can see where we're at. Okay, where the real fun is in the Slack channel. So I know not everybody is in the Slack channel just yet, so I'm gonna stay here for a little bit. You can once again take a photo of that QR code with your phone, join us on the Slack channel. Once you get into the Slack channel, we're actually hanging out in the hashtag InfluxDays-virtual channel. And we're just kind of sharing with each other right now where we're coming from, what's our favorite mascot. And I want to challenge you to guess what Paul's favorite mascot is. You will be surprised to know what his favorite mascot is. So if you know, let's go ahead and throw that into the Slack channel and we can compare notes. We also have a lot of community members and also influxers that are hanging out here in the Slack channel. So please come and join us. The nice thing about the Slack channel and why we chose to use Slack instead of just having the questions and answers in Slido is that the Slack channel kind of hangs around after the event. So if you found some cool little tidbit that you want to go back and refer to, you can just go back to this Slack channel and pick up that information. All right, cool. We'll also continue to remind everybody to go into the Slack channel in the event that you didn't grab it fast enough. I'll give you 20 more seconds to copy that QR code onto your phone, or you can just type in influxdata.com/Slack so you can join us and have some fun that we're having in this channel. All right, here we go. 10 more seconds. Hopefully we'll hear a little bit of Slack chatter from you guys, and cool. I'm going to go on to the next slide. Okay, so in addition to the live sessions that we have today and tomorrow, we actually have a few sessions that are on demand and they are available today. So if you are in the Convene app, you can go to that top menu bar and you can click on demand, or you can go to InfluxDays.com and go to the North America 2021 virtual sessions, and you will see those on-demand sessions. We got so many great people that submitted for talks, and we wanted to make sure that we were able to actually utilize those talks. And so I do recommend that everyone take a listen to them. And the presenters are actually here hanging out with us. So if you have any questions, get to know them. Maybe you haven't had a chance to look at those videos just yet. What I would recommend that you do is just take a quick peek at what's available, and maybe just Slack those presenters in the Slack channel and just say, hey, I'm going to check out your session. Can't wait to ask you some questions and get some, really great, wise advice from you about that particular topic that they were talking about. Now, the one question that we get all the time is, what about the live sessions? When are you going to have those recordings up for me? And I'm really happy to let you know that we do have an answer to that. The answer is November 5th. Yes, I know you guys are anxious and want it tomorrow, but we do need to do just a tiny little cleanup of some of these videos. So just give us a couple of days and we will have those. The good thing is they are going to be posted both on InfluxDays.com and also our YouTube channel. So just, hang out in both. If you subscribe to our YouTube channel, you should get a notification when those videos go up. Or you can just come back and check on InfluxDays on November 5th, and we'll have those up. We'll also make sure that we send an email to those of you that registered the moment that those are live. We may get those in a little bit earlier. I'm just saying, no pressure on the team, but that may happen. Another really cool thing that's happening today and tomorrow is in our Slack channel, we have a number of really great developers from Influx that are volunteering their time to hang out and answer any of your questions. So we have a page that has a list of all our wonderful developers that are going to be hanging out for a couple of hours today and tomorrow. And so if you just go to influxdays.com/meettheexperts, or once again, use that really handy QR code to see who's actually available, you'll see that some of the experts like Scott Anderson, who's really, really knowledgeable about Flux, or Jacob Marble, who's really an expert on our storage engine, Samantha Wang and Sebastian and Popey, experts on Telegraph. I can't remember all of the people that are going to be there, but there's a lot of Influx experts that are going to be there to answer any of your questions. So take advantage of this. Please join them in the Slack channel. Please ask them the hard questions, or just share your experiences with any of the projects. Balaji from the product management team is hanging out there, and he can't wait to hear about what your use cases are for InfluxDB. So please go and check out that agenda. I'm going to give you 20 more seconds to grab that QR code or type in the URL so you can see who's actually hanging out there. And if you're already hanging out in that Slack channel, one of the team members will actually post a list of all the experts so you can see who's going to be there and start to get to know them. They're all really excited to get to know you, and they love writing code that's going to make you feel powerful. And so any kind of feedback that they can get on the stuff that they're writing is much appreciated. We're not done though. we have a lot more stuff. We have a lot of cool things. So we started this InfluxDays challenge at the last InfluxDays, and I was really surprised by some of the really creative ways that you guys have figured out how to use InfluxDB. And so we have a brand new challenge for everybody. And what you need to do is first check out that QR code again, or go to the URL that we have listed here. So influxdata.com/influxdb-challenge. And we've listed a number of steps that we'd like you to go through. And if you offer proof that you actually were able to complete the challenge, then guess what? You get some really cool InfluxData, InfluxDB swag. We've got a lot of cool swag. I don't know if you guys have even checked out our store. We have a store where you can even purchase any of these items. And the team's been really busy constantly coming up with new cool things to add into the store. So lots of cool things. But you know, the most important is that we have those really fancy socks that everyone loves getting. It's getting cold here in the northern hemisphere. I know I saw this morning in the Slack channel, there's a bunch of our friends from the southern hemisphere that are actually going to start to enter into spring and summer, but so what? These socks are still pretty cool. So complete the InfluxDB challenge. Show us how well you're able to use InfluxDB, or maybe even point out something even better that we can all learn from. You guys are super creative, and I can't wait to see what you guys have in store for us. And then finally, we do want to point out that we do have a code of conduct, and I think it's important for all of us, especially in this day and age. Let's just be respectful of each other, of the speakers, of all of our friends in the Slack channel, on YouTube. You know, it's pretty hard to put ourselves out there, whether it's writing code and sharing it with other people, whether it's conducting a training, or whether it's writing documentation. Everyone's really trying to do a really good job and trying to do their best for this community. So let's just offer a little bit of respect for each other. I think it's just worth pointing this out. So I'm actually going to go back to a couple of the other slides now that you've heard me talk. Just as a reminder, I want everyone to join us in the InfluxDays challenge. So grab that QR code and let's see what you can build in InfluxDB and get some cool swag. Come and chat with some of our experts. This is really going to be worthwhile. I think you guys will be able to get a lot of your questions answered, and I think it's going to be really fun to get to see the masterminds behind some of these really great features that you're taking advantage of. So go ahead and grab that QR code when you get a chance here. I'll give you a few more seconds. I really do want to make sure that everyone gets that opportunity, especially if you're on our live stream and don't have all these cool, easy buttons that you can click on. I'll give you just a couple more seconds. Don't forget to check out the on-demand sessions. And the first person to put down in the Slack channel when these live videos are going to be made available, I think we might send you a pair of socks. So I'd love to see who can point out the day that we're going to make all these videos available, post that into the Slack channel, and then I'll pick a couple of winners to send some swag. Or maybe I'll make Evan pick out a couple of winners to send some swag. So if you can put down the date that we're going to have all the live videos available, post that into the Slack channel. And then if you're not in the Slack channel, I'm just going to pause here for a little bit. Please do join us on the Slack channel. We have already a number of questions that are pretty great, and I think everyone's going to find them very useful for when they're starting to use Telegraph or InfluxDB. But we also have a lot of fun in there as well. And so the one question that I might post, that I've already posted actually, is which is your favorite mascot? So let's see what that looks like. And maybe we can do something really fun with the mascot that's the most preferred by all of you guys. But maybe a better question that we need to ask this time is, what color do you think Paul Dix's hair is? So that way we can have a little bit of fun in that channel. What color do you think he dyed at this time? Let's see that question get posted, and let's see all the answers in the Slack channel, and let's see if any of you are going to answer it right. And maybe if we find a really popular color, maybe we can convince Paul, maybe that's the next color that he can dye his hair with next. All right, so once again, just take a look at the agenda. Join us on the Slack channel, and let's have a lot of fun these next couple of days. So my time is almost up here, but that means that I have the great pleasure of introducing our fearless leader, Evan Kaplan, to kick us off with a keynote for InfluxDays. And so with that, let's switch. Cool. All right, Evan, are you ready?
I am. Can you guys hear me? I'm up and live. Great. Hey, Chris, first of all, thanks. You're such a natural master of ceremonies. I don't know how you do it. The easy tone, the style, it's great. We're lucky to have you here and lucky to. Chris is the mastermind behind InfluxDays, not just the master ceremony. So, thanks, Chris. So welcome everybody. Welcome everybody from around the world. I am actually doing this from our partner's office here in Northern California, Bay Area, and I'm doing it from our partner's office because normally I would do it from home, but we've had these terrible storms, and so we've had a variety of different internet outages that's happened over the last few days. So I didn't want to risk with this many people online actually being cut off. And so and I'll come back to why that's important later in the presentation. But so let me go ahead and get started. So here's what I'd like to cover. First of all, I'd like to welcome and express some gratitude for some of our partners and other folks. I'd like to very briefly cover today's announcement, some of the tech that we're shipping and some of the tech that's available. And I will let Paul and Tim and Ryan cover those things more detail later on in the agenda, but at least so you know, because there's been a press release. And then I'd like to really talk about why we exist. And the reason I say that is, sort of companies, organizations have to have a reason for existing. And when we think about it, we want to be able to articulate that clearly, not just to our employees and to our investors, but to the broader community. So I want to talk a little bit about that. And then I'll go through the agenda quickly, and then I will turn it over to the person you really want to hear talk, not me, but hear Paul, our CTO, founder, my partner, and as I often refer to him, the little brother I never wanted. And so with that, let me jump into some of the stuff. First of all, it takes a village is kind of a hackneyed expression, but it really does. I wanted to thank all the variety of contributors. I think we're north of 1,500 contributors to InfluxDB, Telegraph, Capacitor, and the various projects, and now IOX and the various open source projects that we sponsor and live on. And just to be, without sounding cliche, like this is a super important part of the dynamic of running an open source company, is engaging the community, getting the benefit of working with the community. We've had some people do some heroic things on the platform, some of whom we've brought on board to hire, and others who we're just happy to work with in the community. And so I just want to say thank you to all of those folks. And hopefully, if you're new to Influx, if you're coming here and this is your first InfluxDays and you're not yet super familiar with the platform, that you take the initiative and figure out how you can contribute to the platform itself. And so next, I'd like to thank the sponsors. We usually put a couple of people to help us, a couple of organizations to help us sponsor the events. And AWS, which is one of the places that we host and has been a consistent sponsor for Influx. PTC, who's our partner, Industrial IoT, who is one of the leaders in industrial IoT and has been a great partner to work with. I want to thank both of you, both organizations, for supporting us on this journey and working with us closely, and just very much appreciative of that. So let me talk about what we'd like to accomplish here at InfluxDays over the next 2 days. We want to have a convening, and what I mean by convening is a bringing together the community broadly defined, the contributors, the customers, the employees of Influx, and all the other folks, and that applies to whether you've been working with Influx for 5 years or whether you've started working with Influx last week. Want a convening, and the reason we want to convene is, one is we want to be able to share our work We want to show you what we're doing, ideally how we're thinking about things, how we're developing things, our orientation for our platform and our technology and things like that. We want you to be able to see it and be as transparent as we can. Another is we want to highlight our builders. One of the things you'll hear me talk about is how that is the driving force for us, is that ability to empower people to build and create cool things. I'll talk about that in a little, but we'd like to highlight some of that here. Fourth point is that we want to teach and learn from each other. This is not, ideally in this format, it can sometimes feel like a one-way conversation, but using the tools that Chris has talked about and engaging us in the various forums, we want to teach and learn from each other. One of our core values is humility drives learning. And that listening to the community, trying to figure out what's next, trying to stay ahead of the issues, trying to stay relevant for you as you build and create things is really important. And it can't be a one-way conversation. And so we want to be listening closely and we want to evolve. And so if we feel like we've accomplished, portions of this all the way through InfluxDays, we'll feel good about it. We'll feel good about having brought the community together and having people see what we're doing and listening and learning. And hopefully people get a sense that we are indeed evolving and getting better and better. This is a long journey. So let me start with today what we're announcing. And again, this will be a second, but I won't go into detail, is our orientation is really to improve developers' time to awesome, to allow them to use tools wherever they're working with, and be able to earn their trust. And so today we're announcing new tools to support developers building applications. So we're doing a bunch of enhancements to Influx notebooks, which many of you are using. We're doing some auto-generated Flux queries. One of the things exciting you'll hear us talk about is the VS Code extensions and things like that, so developers can work in a more natural environment. In addition, we'll be talking about explicit schema options so that folks can go in with a more structured schema model. Something we're calling API invocable scripts. We'll talk some about that. And then we'll talk about key Flux enhancements. And as you remember, Flux is the language that's really built on top of time series and built for time series as a functional language. So there's a press release, read Tim's blog post, but mostly just listen to Tim and Paul and Ryan talk through some of this. Sort of excited, and there's more to come on that front. So one of the things as a company you will always want to ask yourself is why we exist. Why does our existence either make the world a better place or give us a sense of purpose or give us a sense of focus for our attention and that? And so it's a dynamic that that you want to ask regularly. And I think we have really strong clarity about why we exist. And I wanted to talk about that today. So let me start with the notion of we all want to have an impact. And since we're mostly talking to an audience of developers and coders and builders and architects and operators, it's easy to cater that conversation. So the way I think about having an impact is we all want to feel powerful in our work. We want to feel like we have the ability to affect change. We want to feel like we create. At the end of the day, we want to know that we just didn't go, this is sometimes my problem, is go to 10 Zoom meetings and wonder what happened, right? We want to build things. We want to create things. We want to have some level of satisfaction. And we want to have some control of our environment. Often people become developers or builders because they can exercise that control. And that's what's interesting, and they want to build things. And if we get to do that on a really large scale, we can do some pretty big things in the world. I mean, there's, of course, the normal stuff of making our businesses more efficient, making our organizations better, doing things, all the things to make everything operate better. But there's also, there are big thoughts about feeding the world, affecting climate change, right? Affecting people's personal health. And so our notion is we all have an impact. And this graphic is a company of ours that runs on our cloud service called InFarm that does indoor hydroponic farming, which is just fascinating, these kind of applications. But it comes down to the notion is we all want to show up at work. We want to feel powerful. We want to affect change. We want to have an impact. And so And so to segue a little bit from that is we always want to build for smarter. When we think about what developers do, the world is generally entropic. Things are generally getting more chaotic without intervention. And when we write code and when we build services or we build products, we're trying to build for smarter. And so, what I mean by smarter is, and you can sort of see this around it in a really big way, is everything from self-correcting to self-healing to learning to eventually autonomous systems. And, this is an example of a self-driving car, which is really a near perfect example of a learning thing that gets better and better over time and eventually becomes a self-driving thing. But the important intervention is the system. We all desire to build systems that are smarter, whether we're monitoring a piece of software infrastructure, whether we're monitoring people's healthcare, whether we're building hydroponic farms or whatever. We're trying to build smarter and smarter systems. That really is, I think, the grail of coding and moving things forward. And so our point of view is actually quite simple at its base. Is the future is instrumented. Now, obviously, we sell, we build, we deliver a platform that's oriented around measurement and time series. It's oriented around instrumentation. And so our fundamental belief is that the future is instrumented, that everything starts with instrumentation. You can't start learning until you've instrumented, right? And if you think about the cycle that got you to the self-driving car is I've instrumented, I've taken it into the real world, I've watched, I've observed, I've corrected, I've made manual changes. If I do this a couple of 100 million times, I may arrive at a self-driving car. But my intent in all of this is to increasingly build smarter and smarter systems that that eventually are autonomous in some way, shape, or form. Now, not everything needs to be autonomous, but every system wants to get smarter. Every release of software, every service that's offered, you want it to be smarter. And we're living in a world in which increasingly the physical world is at a very high resolution being instrumented. As I sit here today, and we make fun of that, but I'm wearing an Apple Watch, which will obviously tell me what my HRV is and things like that. I wear this thing called a Whoop band that tells me a variety of stuff. I happen to have a continuous glucose monitor just for interesting to understand what I eat turns to, what I eat and how it spikes my glucose. And I'm a little nutty about this sort of stuff because I have fun with it, collecting the data and that sort of stuff. But all my broader point is the whole physical world is getting instrumented super fast. Sensors are getting cheaper and cheaper. They're getting smaller. Networks are more connected. And it seems obvious to us. Our homes, our cars, our healthcares, our factories, our industries, our supply chains, everything is getting instrumented cheaper and cheaper, and everything's commuting all the time. Maybe because that's who we are, we see this as a time series problem. We see the language of instrumentation being time series. Temperature, pressure, volume, humidity, what have you, light. We see the lingua franca for all of that being time series, which is why we're so passionate about something that many people would think is pretty geeky. It's not exactly the most fun thing to go to a dinner party and tell folks I work on a time series platform, and people go, oh, okay, whatever that is. But our belief is the future is instrumented, that everything starts with instrumentation. AI, ML, all learning starts with instrumentation. And we want to be the foundation for that. We want to be the reference stack. We want to be the thing that people build on. And the way we achieve that is we try to be really easy for developers to use. We try to meet you where you are with the tool sets and the client libraries and the things that you work with, right? And we want to earn your trust. We want the stuff to work. We want it to scale. We want to fix it. We want to make it better. And when we think about this instrumented future, we think about developers. Is so much of the world is code. So much of the world is where code hits the physical world. And developers create that future that I'm talking about, that instrumented future, that smarter future, that increasingly autonomous, self-healing, right, artificial intelligence future. Developers create that with code, with tools and capabilities. And where we get really excited is we get excited about building a great tool set with you, not just for you, but with you. And that's the interaction of the community. That's the interaction of our customers. That's the feedback we get. We care deeply about building a great tool set for you that allows you to do that creation, that change, that allows you to collect that instrumented data and build smarter and smarter systems, that allows you to do that work. And we're constantly playing with how to do that better. And you'll hear that in some of the announcements today. But this is what we care passionately about. There's no confusion at the table. We want to build this. We happen to think that most of the data that is out there is best understood in a time context. And most of the systems that are built have to have time series at their base. We happen to fundamentally believe that platforms built for purpose are better than using general purpose platforms and relational databases. And Paul will talk some about that, which is why when Paul started the company, he had that unique, every entrepreneur has a unique point of view. And his unique point of view is that when you're working with time series data, there's a real advantage to building a specialized platform that's capable of the kind of write levels, the kind of query levels, the kind of real-time dynamics that you're not going to get from your standard relational database or column store. And so we care deeply about and evolving that over the next 20, 30 years. That's sort of our time frame when we think about this sort of stuff. And when we think about you guys in the process, we love when you use Influx to make an impact. That is what gets us jacked up. That's what gets us out of bed in the morning. That's what gets excited. That's what, when we hear the user stories, we have an all hands every month, and we often bring customers in to say what they've done. And we just love the coolness of what people create. And so, in essence, we want to build cool stuff for people who build cool stuff. And you are the people who build cool stuff. And if we think about it broadly, what we really hope is this. We hope that you get so familiar with the tool set and the capability, and you feel so fluid with it that you take it from application to application, job to job, role to role, and you take it with you. And it's one of these things that you have available whenever you have to do this kind of work, which we think is increasingly going to be part of most people's coding life. And so we're excited about earning that trust from you guys. And so when we talk about making an impact, I flashed a little forward. Coming back to my story is, we think about things like local energy generation. So this is my house with a new solar roof that was just put in a month ago. And this Influx runs the application that actually runs my iPhone app that shows me how many kilowatts are generated, how it is, what's home, how much is coming from the grid, how much is stored in the power wall. And basically, I'm pretty much off grid, right? This was not possible for me even 3 years ago. And this real-time view of this actually changes my behavior about when I use the house and how I do it. When I saw this app and I talked to the team, the developers, the leader of the team who built it, I was like, this is the coolest thing ever. And so while everybody else lost power during these storms, I did not lose power. I did lose internet, but I didn't lose power. Also, when we think about rethinking the safety of cars, a Japanese company that we work with does these incredibly interesting visualizations to map the safety of cars and things like that. That's all built on Influx data. Super exciting stuff. And when we think about, changing the world or affecting climate change, a company we with for a long time, Bbox, builds it solar in sub-Saharan Africa and other parts of the world, where they build solar generators for small villages where they're able to get access to solar power, and they track all of that stuff with Influx. I get it. We're the boring part of the whole mix, but it's not boring if you've got a tool that you can use to create these other great things on top of it. And I can't tell you how proud we are with these kinds of things, with these kinds of applications. And while a little less, social good, but driving the future of currency, there are a number of crypto exchange sites and things like that were driven by Influx and Tick Stack and Tick Data underneath it. And we're super proud of those guys too. And so this is what really, really drives us day to day. watching people build cool stuff with the platform and figuring out how to help them do more and more of that. So the last thing I would say to you before I go to the agenda is, when you take up this tool and you use it and you help us improve it, you're not alone. There are 500,000 plus InfluxDB instances running daily around the world. And actually probably more instances. Those are IP addresses that we can see. There are 1,500 contributors to the platform so far. There are 2,000 commercial customers for the platform. There are 300 discrete plugins for Telegraph, many of which have been created by the community. And so I want you to get a sense of that, it takes a village to deliver on this kind of thing, and an open source orientation, I think, to get this kind of scale. But you're all part of that. You're not alone when you're out there. When you ask a question into a Slack channel or into a Stack Overflow or into one of these things, there's lots of other people trying to figure out the things that you're doing, and hopefully we can continue to facilitate that community and earn your trust. So with that, let's go to the agenda, and I'll give you a little bit of a highlight what we got in store for the next couple of days. One is I want to thank the team who built a really good agenda and a variety of different presenters. I'm super excited for myself to see it all. But let's go through this a little bit. So hopefully you have this on your phone. After me, Paul's going to talk some about the future of InfluxDB and give you a landscape that we're working on. And then Tim, our VP of Product, will go through a detailed roadmap of the things that you can expect. I'm pretty excited to have Bhagwan talk about the telehealth platform and progressive delivery. That'll be at 11:45. Then we'll break for lunch. And then we have the folks from Social Gist talking about transferring email reports into self-serving dashboards and detecting anomalies in stream. Both of those capture the idea of smarter and smarter. Then we have Russ Savage, our own Russ Savage, who will be doing an InfluxDB quick start, which if you're new to the platform, even if you're not new, it's really worth seeing. Russ is, not to put the pressure on Russ, Russ is one of the most natural demoers I've ever seen work. And then we have WP Engine, transformed monitoring into an observability platform. There are lots of off-the-shelf, really good observability products out there, but we have lots of customers who built their own observability capability and custom metrics capability on their platform. And so I'm looking forward to that presentation. And then we have our Telegraph team and Alan Pope and Sebastian Spank talking about how you get data in. One of the things about Influx and Telegraph is it's been relatively easy to get it in, and we keep expanding the ways we want to allow people to ingest the data very, very quickly. And obviously, if you're using our cloud product, you don't even have to spin up a server. You just have to point it at the data source. We'll talk some of that. And then Scott Anderson will talk about Flux alerts and notifications, so you can begin to build these systems and build your own smart intelligence into it. And then Chris, our master of ceremonies, will come and do a wrap up for day one. And then turning our attention to day two, tomorrow, Ryan Betts, our VP of Engineering, will be giving an engineering update, and he'll be talking some about how we think about the value of our engineering and what we're trying to do with our platform. And then we have our partner at Red Hat coming in, talking about gaining network visibility, network telemetry, which I think is interesting. We have a lot of customers using us for network telemetry, and it's great to see Red Hat come. And then we'll have Tim Spann from Stream Native talking about using Flank within StuffDB for edge AI and IoT at scale. A really interesting dynamic for us. One of the advantages that we have in the IoT world is this ability to operate at the edge with open source and the ability to operate in the cloud. And many of these IoT architectures are 2- and 3-tier architectures with local stores and local intelligence. So I'm excited for that talk. And then we'll be of another Jacob Marble, our head of our IOX, the manager of our IOX team. He'll be talking about open telemetry in IOX, which I actually am pretty excited about, the open telemetry standard. That will create an even easier way to ingest on the observability side. And then some Flux, Anais, one of our DevRel folks, will be talking about learning Flux by example. I don't think you want to miss that, particularly if you haven't worked a lot with Flux. Anais does a really good job demoing this sort of stuff and giving people a sense of how to work with Flux. And then we'll talk a little bit. Brian Gilmore, who joined us about 5 months ago, is our resident IoT expert, and has become a source of all things IoT. He's going to be talking about an IoT application architecture that makes a lot of sense with Influx at the base, the new reference stack for IoT, time series at the foundation, ideally our time series Influx, but time series in general. Then Michael Hall will do a community update, and he'll be talking about the competition that Chris mentioned and some of those sorts of things. And then the folks from Fujitsu and Aircent will be talking about ML-based data-driven software development. Again, this whole idea of building smarter and smarter systems is being characterized in the beginning of that instrumentation journey and taking that up to the levels of ML and AI. And then Anna Marie Callan will be talking about migrating from OSS to InfluxDB Cloud. We've tried to make that easy. There's some real advantages to cloud. Not everybody wants to do that, but the people who want to do that, we're trying to make it really easy. And then Chris will come for an InfluxDays wrap-up. And then lastly, before I turn it back to Chris, we have these on-demand sessions that are available for you. So we have Going Underground with InfluxDB, which I actually don't know what that is, but I bet it's going to be good. And then for those of you in the IoT world, the MQTT standard and the machine data collection, working with that. We have a variety of people from Eldor Corporation talking about that. I'm excited for that. And then we have the Chief Technology Officer for Noble 9 is how not to build a service level objective platforms. And then lastly, we'll end up with Unlock IoT Value with PTC's ThingsWorks platform in InfluxDB, and Ayush will come and present that. So really interesting stuff. So I want to thank all of you for attending, whether you're attending live, which I can see a huge number of you are, which is awesome. And whether you're attending live or you're going to watch this on demand, I hope you get a lot of value out of this. And please, feedback, share with us thoughts. It's super valuable. With that, I'm going to turn it back to Chris, who will introduce my partner in crime, Paul Dix.